at KNEB 960.
It is 7:43 and 37 degrees. Another warm day for late January. Coming up next is our News Extra program, brought to you by Gering Civic Center. Here is Kevin Mooney.
Thank you, Dennis, and good morning, everyone. Our guest today is Holly Johnston. She is a nurse over at Regional West Medical Center, and she is also the Community Health Injury Prevention Coordinator at the hospital. And so she knows a little bit personally, because you were in a car accident, right?
That's correct.
And she was in a car accident as a teenager and suffered a spinal injury, so she is paralyzed from the waist down. So you know a little bit about how injuries may truly affect a life, right?
That's correct, yep.
We're going to talk today about Nebraska's new concussion law, and this is something that you are kind of working out with Tracy Meyer, who's with Airlink. Describe what's going on here.
There's a new legislative bill going into effect July 1st of this year, mandating things to be a little bit different for our high schools and sports organizations. All coaches have to be trained to recognize the symptoms of concussions, and they have to pull the athlete from the game. The next component to it is that that athlete needs to be assessed by a licensed provider before they can join the game again.
All right, so this is kind of similar to what I know the NFL does. I think it's similar to what they do in college sports anymore. Very much like this. Concussions, people are treating them a lot more seriously now than they used to, right?
Yeah, they have recognized that once an athlete sustains a concussion, there can be a thing called the second impact syndrome, where if that initial concussion doesn't have time to heal itself and they get struck again, it can be catastrophic. So they're really taking steps to avoid that.
Yeah, and people shouldn't refer to it as just having somebody's bell rung. That's kind of what we used to always say when we were covering football games. Well, looks like he had his bell rung. He just needs to go to the sideline and clear the cobwebs. They'll be right back.
It's much more serious than ringing a bell.
Yeah. What is a concussion, per se? People, in case people don't really know what the definition of that is.
A concussion is an injury that the brain sustains, essentially from being jostled in your skull. So anything that strikes the head, obviously with sports it's a head-on-head collision, or maybe falling and hitting the head, on the ground and any other objects.
Yeah. So this doesn't necessarily just pertain to sports. I mean, sometimes when people faint and they hit their head on something as they faint or something like that, or they fall or whatever, those are kind of the same type of things, right?
Right. Concussions can happen with most activities, but more so with sports.
Okay. Now this presentation, where's it going to be at, and what time?
It is tomorrow evening at the Harms Center at 7 o'clock. We have it set up so the presentation lasts about an hour, and then we've kept another hour on there so that we can discuss where everybody's at with their planning.
Yeah. So this is probably something that not only probably coaches should attend. Who else should attend this?
The bill is gonna affect parents. It's gonna affect athletes, anyone who works with kids in that arena, teachers, school nurses, as well as healthcare professionals. This is gonna change their practice. They're probably gonna be seeing a lot more athletes to get cleared. So.
Right. This bill affects athletes 19 years old or younger. So basically, kids that are playing high school sports, pretty much for the most part, right?
That's correct.
Okay. And then you'll not only have this tomorrow, but you also have another presentation on the 7th of February, very similar, right?
It's the same thing, just repeated in case you can't make it tomorrow. So.
Yeah, so if you can't make it tomorrow at 7 o'clock over at the Harms Center, you can do it again on February 7th. Tracy Meyer, explain why she is the one that is giving this presentation.
Tracy just has a passion for that. She has actually presented this presentation at a multi-state coaches meeting. She does that every year, so she's put a lot of good information together.
Yeah. Okay, we'll take a time out and be right back.
You're doing great.
You're doing good.
See? Really. You may want to talk about some of the symptoms.
Yeah.
Because not everybody really gets it. Nobody knows what to look for.
Yeah.
And, you know, now they need to know there's a lot more writing on them if they don't take the time to look at it. So,
Yeah.
Hearing Civic Center. This is how satisfied
Say that again?
Now that there's a law, they need to know what the symptoms are.
All right, we are back on News Extra. We have Holly Johnston is here, and she is the Regional West Medical Center Community Health Injury Prevention Coordinator. And she is discussing some workshops that are going to be available to coaches, administrators, health professionals, athletes, parents on concussions. There's a new concussion law out, very similar to the policy the NFL has. If you watched NFL games and you watch one of the athletes go out, somebody gets hit, any violent collision or something on the football field, they go out. In the NFL, they go to the sideline. Many times they don't return until they go through a battery of tests the next week to determine whether or not how serious that concussion is. Kind of a similar law here we're talking about, where athletes would have to be checked out by a doctor or somebody before they could go back in and play again. What are the symptoms of a concussion? How do you know you have a concussion?
Well, like I mentioned, it results from a blow to the head or a jarring of the head. Sometimes there will be a loss of consciousness, but not always. Otherwise, generally you'll have a headache, basic disorientation, confusion, maybe slurred speech, sometimes nausea and vomiting. There's a very big list of things. Oftentimes, the people closest to the athlete who has concussed are the only ones who will recognize it. So friends will notice, you're not acting right. So that is why we're really encouraging students to come too.
Yeah.
So, and teachers.
Right. And the victim of a concussion, many times, everything just seems maybe a little foggy. They're just not quite there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how long usually, I imagine Tracy's going to present this, but how long usually does it take for a concussion to maybe work itself out and for somebody to come back and be normal again?
Everybody's different, obviously, as well as the severity of the injury. Sometimes it can take a week. Sometimes you'll have those symptoms for a very long time, weeks.
Yeah. And this law, Tracy will talk about, but I'm sure she'll also talk about the fact that if you have several of these, then it really kind of puts you in danger for some serious stuff.
Right. Like I mentioned, there's the second impact syndrome, which 50% of the time results in death. 100% of the time results in morbidity, which means lasting effects to your body.
Yeah. You are the health injury prevention coordinator. Kind of describe what that job entails.
It's my job to coordinate education pretty much to the community about preventing injuries. So right now our focus is on concussions with the new bill going into effect and things like distracted driving.
Yeah. Okay, distracted driving, like cell phones, for example.
Cell phones. There's a lot of distractions, kids, food, that sort of thing, but cell phones are kind of the primary thing right now.
Yeah, I would agree. So I would imagine you're all for bills that would say if you're on a phone in a car, the police spot you, they can stop you and give you a ticket.
Yes, I think it should certainly be a primary offense. So.
Yeah, you shouldn't have to be doing something else and cause an accident with your cell phone before you get stopped, right?
Yes, they definitely take a lot of your attention from the road.
Yeah, okay. No question about it. All right, describe again when this conference is and where, and we'll go from there.
All right, the first one is tomorrow, January 31st at 7 p.m. at the Harms Center up at Western Nebraska Community College, and then a repeat session on February 7th, which is next Tuesday.
All right, 7 p.m. again at the Harms Center up at the college, and Tracy Meyer will be giving this presentation. She's a nurse involved with Airlink, and she knows a lot about these type of injuries. All right, thanks, Holly. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, back to you, Dan.
What do you think?